That's basically what I am, Lord Dubs of the Sith.
That'd be the worst Sith name.
Lord Dubs.
Dubs.
Lord Dubs has entered. His lightsaber's stupid looking.
Dooku. Dubs. Hi guys.
That's supposed to be on a poster, like playing at the club tonight.
Lord Dubs.
Oh, now I'm getting attitude from the robot in the room.
Yep, that's it. Yeah, you've already lost. If the android's beating you,
That's true.
you failed. That's the Sith
Yep.
Lord. Hello, everyone. This is Between the Streams. This is our weekly podcast where we talk about movies and entertainment here for Digital Trends. Thank you so much for joining us. Of course, in addition to being a podcast, we are broadcasting live right now on Facebook, Twitch, YouTube, and Periscope. I almost forgot the last one. Periscope as well. So on Twitter. And because we're broadcasting live, we want to hear what you think of what we're talking about today, all the different topics we're going to go through. We want to hear your opinions, including our opening topic, which is, of course, going to be about Star Wars. Solo opening up this weekend, last night, actually. And there's a bunch of stuff to talk about with that. And we already know, sounds like, what the next solo Star Wars movie will be. That was the wrong way to do it. That was a terrible pun.
Every time.
I tried to do it. I know.
Every time.
I know. It just really didn't work out.
You can't say standalone.
Can't say standalone. I have to say solo. Anyway, our question is...
Solo.
What is your favorite Star Wars movie? And I know there's going to be some contention on that. We want to see what your thoughts are, so go ahead and drop your comments in there. But let's introduce our cast of characters, because in addition to the normal us two that you normally see on the show, we have a special guest with us. So I'm Greg Nibbler.
I'm Ryan Juanita.
And joining us right now, contributing editor here at Digital Trends, our entertainment guru, if you will, it is Rick Marshall via the robot. So if you're listening to the podcast, he is via an actual robot. I think technically you can tool around in this thing.
But don't.
But
There's a microphone.
But he is here on screen with us. Hello, Rick.
I'm in a robot.
I mean, what more could you
That's
want?
all that matters.
I'm in a robot. So Rick is joining us. Rick, yeah, thank you, seriously, for joining us. You know, if you read the entertainment section here in Digital Trends, most likely, assuredly, you have read some of Rick's articles and reviews and what he's seen. And we have a new article. Is this up now? The rankings?
No, that's actually in the works. We have a basic ranking that he just spit out for us, and it's terrible, first of all.
So we're already starting off with that. So we've got a fight going right now. But what is your favorite Star Wars movie? That is what we want to know.
Yeah.
And
or
so,
your other favorites below. If it's obvious that it's A New Hope, like, you know, what is your other favorite, or how do you rank them? I guess too. So,
A New Hope is not my favorite.
Oh, I know. Well,
Yeah.
it's a real common favorite. A lot of people like Empire too.
Okay. Well, all right. Let's go through this. Who wants to go first then? Should we have Rick?
Yeah, we'll have Rick go first.
Have Rick go first. Okay.
Well, I feel terrible now because, you know, Star Wars A New Hope is my favorite of the bunch.
I mean, that's fine. It's a good movie.
It's my favorite too.
Okay.
And, you know, I feel like
So
Empire
you're both
doesn't
wrong.
exist without Star Wars A New Hope. So, you know, you have to kind of put Star Wars first. It doesn't exist, you know, without it.
It carved out the genre. Although I would put Empire right up there. Like, maybe just the only reason that New Hope pops just above it is because it changed the whole paradigm, and that's why, you know, nothing else would be possible without it. And it changed the paradigm, not just in how movies are made, how they're seen, how they're attended, how fandom is even, you know, looked at. It did so many amazing things for just sci-fi in general.
So so both of you are saying A New Hope is the best one. Well, then,
very much so. If
you went from there, then what would the next one be? And I'm seeing some comments come in here, so we'll get to everybody else's favorite here as well. But what would be number 2 then?
I mean, Empire is number 2 for me. I mean, that would be my number 1 if Star Wars didn't exist. So.
Right. I got to go Empire 2. And then after that, I think we veer off the tracks very hard with each other's opinions.
This is where the fight starts.
Yeah.
Okay. So
number 3 is where it starts getting crazy.
I'm actually saying, well, I'll say my first 2. Empire is the best one.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
I can see that.
Empire's the best, followed by Return of the Jedi.
Yeah,
those are my top 2.
Wow, Return of the Jedi is number 2.
Okay.
Return of the Jedi is number 2. Maybe
I
it's just
have
because
so
of when
much
I saw it.
nostalgia for Return of the Jedi that it's either 3 or 4 for me.
Yeah.
But when The Last Jedi came out, I said that I thought that people might start ranking it above Return.
Really?
I did, and some people have. In fact, somebody wrote an article about that just recently. I can't say if it's up there for me quite there, but it's either Jedi or Last Jedi. It's either Return or Last Jedi, I'd say.
Well, I'm seeing this, and I want to hear where this list goes after that. But right now, as far as comments coming in here on the chat, it looks like Brandon says Jedi. Let's see, Mary says 4, so A New Hope would be that one. Empire Strikes Back from Ryan. So actually, it's kind of going all over the place here, but I am seeing a couple of Jedis. Nick also.
No one has
Jedi.
mine. I have a very different movie at number 3.
Yeah.
Who
What's
do
your
you
number
have?
3?
Look at Ryan is salivating. To
He's so ready to just say wrong.
Idiot.
I put Rogue One as my 3rd favorite Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
I absolutely loved Rogue One. I thought it was a great movie, even if it wasn't in the Star Wars universe. I thought Rogue One was an amazing standalone, sans any Star Wars connection, sci-fi war drama. And the fact that it's connected to the Star Wars universe is just a bonus. It's what puts it even higher, on my list of great movies.
Yeah, and I loved Rogue One, too. I think it gets a strangely low ranking from other people. I wouldn't put it at 3, but I absolutely loved Rogue One. One of the things I loved about it was how it intentionally made stuff look old school, and that may seem easy to do, but when you're not actually using tracking film cameras, it's not that easy to do. My main example was the Star Destroyers. They just looked right to me in a sort of interesting, plasticky, Star Wars-y, nostalgic feel, and to get that feel of how those looked, I think using CG, to me was just a major coup for that film. And I also loved all the locations it went to, the volcanic planet for Vader. I don't understand why people seem to sort of rate it pretty low, because
Really?
I think it's pretty fantastic.
I thought it was, I'll be honest, the first time I saw it, it took me a bit to get into it.
To get on board.
And then I ended up watching it again, because by the end of that movie, I was like, okay, wait, that was really good. I need to watch the beginning again and get back into it. Taking a look here in the chat, Kevin just said he's excited about Rogue One, but he asked, how is it not in the Star Wars canon?
Well, it does
Just
lead
because
right
it's
into
this-
it, but it's a side story that leads right into it.
Okay, so that's how you're counting that one.
Well, he's not
It's-
counting it as main canon.
It's not one of the episodic films,
Exactly.
Right.
but it's a standalone. It's a prequel, and also, the end leads directly into A New Hope. So, it's part of the whole, the continuity of it, but it's considered a standalone film in the anthology part. So,
Yeah.
But I absolutely love the film, and that's one of the, as Ryan said, locations, what they did to make things, how difficult it is to make things look old. Sometimes
Absolutely.
is amazing.
Right.
Yeah, I thought that was just sort of a tour de force from the filmmakers, just right there, and also the idea that I'm losing his name, but a lifelong Star Warser is the one that came up with the story for Rogue One. It's not Kasdan, but it was a special effects guy, and I just can't think of it right now. He pitched it to eventually Kathleen Kennedy in a 30-minute pitch, and that's how the first anthology movie came out. I thought that's a really cool story.
That is pretty cool.
Like Greg, I also didn't have this high opinion of it until I watched it a second time. It was the second time that I watched it and was like, this is one of my favorite Star Wars movies ever made. I love this. And the movie ended, and I'm like, I love this. And I think that sometimes maybe that might be the case too. You look over it in the context of some of the ones that have also come out, Force Awakens, Last Jedi, and now Solo, and that's, I think, also pushed it up in my esteem.
So maybe we come back to this now that you've angered so many people with your Rogue One rating. Can we have your Solo review?
Yeah, let's talk about Solo.
Yeah.
So just came out. Obviously, there's probably some people who have seen it. No spoilers.
Spoiler free, but
everybody,
just tell us the vibe.
Yeah.
Always spoiler free.
But even people in the comments don't spoil anything.
Right.
But yeah, so what did you think? What's your review of this?
I think Solo is fun. It's not as complicated and controversial maybe as The Last Jedi. It's not as dark and sort of dramatic, I feel, as maybe Rogue One or Empire or one of those. It's just kind of pure fun. It's also not buried in the sort of nostalgic hype that maybe Force Awakens had. While it does feature two of the major Star Wars characters, and that brings with it a whole lot of nostalgia. It's not the return of Star Wars, this big deal because it exists. It's there as a just fun movie with characters It almost felt like a live action film, maybe based on whether it be one of the comic book or expanded universe books or any of the other various things that have come out that have been spin-offs there that fans of Star Wars really love. This was just a fun adventure with some characters that you know of, introducing some new characters, filling in some backstory, and just getting the job done. I left the theater completely entertained the entire time. I left it with a smile. I wasn't left wondering sort of, well, what did this mean? Or did I really like that? Or I didn't feel the need to debate the way I did after maybe Last Jedi or Force Awakens. Solo was just simply a very well done, well encapsulated film that was very much kind of, you watch it, you're entertained, you remember why you love Star Wars, and then you can kind of move on.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think what you said about the lore was interesting to me because I haven't seen it yet. I really, wanted to see it last night, but I couldn't get to it. But one of the things that I've just been reading a little bit about is some people like it and some people don't like how it fills in some of that lore that maybe were even throwaway lines in earlier movies that like later become, major like points of interest and
really?
emphasis that need to be filled out, such as the Kessel Run is one we think that they're going to fill out. Without giving away, how did you feel about the lore being filled in?
Well, that's going to be one of the things I think is probably, if anything's going to be controversial about this movie, if anything's going to be debated, and it already is being debated, is how it sort of fills in these answers to questions that people have been asking for decades now. And you know what? With any of these movies that have decades and decades of fan speculation and pondering and debate, and when you give a concrete answer to any of those things, there are going to be people who don't like those answers. It was either too easy. It was either not the direction they wanted the answer to go in, or not the thread that they wanted it to be in the tapestry that is Star Wars.
Yep, that's interesting.
Yeah. Okay, so I mean, it's still worth going to see, obviously, in the theater.
Absolutely.
I would assume.
Oh, he loved it.
Yeah. So, well, I mean, yeah, but I do find that interesting because I will admit I've been kind of critical of the whole idea of some of these standalone movies of Solo since it was announced.
Oh yeah,
Ryan would know.
Hated it. From the
I thought
get-go.
it was just an unnecessary thing. I'm still going to go see it tomorrow. They're still getting my money. Like they're always going to get my money regardless. But I just think the idea is it's not necessary because there's so many different characters, so many places you could explore. But if it's a good movie is a good movie. And
yeah.
I'm excited to go see it. I will definitely be checking it out. So Solo, and the review is at digitaltrends.com too. Of course, you can read Rick's review before you go see it. I'm seeing some comments coming in the chat, and then I want to talk about the news we got today. But Ryan just said, saw Solo last night. Not too bad. It was fun, but I wasn't that blown away. Sounds kind of similar. Keelan, not bad, but underwhelming. So
I agree with that comment.
Talking about Rogue One.
Yeah.
Oh, a comment Kevin said for the Rogue One movie, the Darth Vader hallway scene was one of the most amazing scenes in the whole series, in my opinion.
It really was.
Yeah,
it was an
pretty
add-on.
good.
They almost didn't have it, which is crazy.
that was a pretty great scene. So going from Solo then, which is obviously out, we did get the news because there's been the speculation about what the next standalone movies were going to be. Last week we talked about the Obi-Wan Kenobi movie, which sounds like it's going to be happening. I don't think anything's 100% confirmed.
That one's been rumored to have a director for a long time, which we don't know how true that's going to be. But now we have this James Mangold rumor for Boba Fett.
Well, that's what I was going to say.
I'm really curious what Rick thinks about that too.
Yeah. So
I like James Mangold. I like him as a director. I liked everything that he's done. I keeping an open mind. I think it's hilarious that Boba Fett has become the character that he is right now in the lore. But,
I agree. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, why would Boba Fett? I mean, it's a nice character, but do I really need to know the backstory? I mean, he's never even has he ever said anything that you can understand?
He said like
right?
5 words in the original series, I believe, and he does look cool, and he's this fandom-like thing. So it's sort of, to me, it seems like they're sort of just playing to the fans, and that's always a sketchy way to go. It has a lot of pitfalls. One of the interesting things I read, just a tweet actually, I think from a Verge writer, who said that he's a completely flat character, but if anybody can give him a cool story, it's James Mangold. I mean, look what he was able to do with he's a good storyteller. Let's put it that way.
Yes. Yeah, I think that it's worth keeping an open mind on it because Boba Fett is kind of a clean slate for us. I mean, we know about him when he was a kid from the prequels, and then
if you're going to take that,
pick up with him much later on when he's this notorious bounty hunter who's one of the best in the galaxy and has this really cool armor and all that sort of thing. I'll be really interested to see if any of the sort of expanded universe stuff that really helped make him the sort of iconic character that he is comes into play, because I know we've abandoned a lot of that when Disney bought Lucasfilm, but a lot of that was hinted at in Solo. There's a lot of hints to some of the expanded universe ideas, and so they're clearly taking some things from that, some elements from that universe, and Boba Fett has a really rich history in the expanded universe.
That's true. So, that's something I forget to take into account too. There is a lot of stuff there as far as these characters have been developed out over that.
Rick actually looked at that stuff. I don't know the expanded universe at all, and you delve deep. So if anybody knows like what Boba Fett could tell a backstory, it'd be you.
Well, I'm taking a look here on Twitch, and one of the comments, and actually I kind of agree with this. For your FYI says, I like the Boba idea if they keep it dark and rough. That would get me on board. If we did have a Logan, R-rated,
because that's
Star
the last
Wars
thing
movie
that Mangold did was Logan, right? So so
that's what Mangold brings to it. I mean, he can be edgy. He can make it sort of. He can deal with fantastic elements in an edgy setting, and not in the way that maybe Warner Brothers has maybe failed at with the superhero type things. So
right,
I think he's a good pick for it.
Do you think we'd ever get an R-rated Star Wars movie?
I mean, I think Disney has to take a good long look at themselves and decide whether they want to make that leap, because to them it's always been a line drawn in the sand. And now they're about to possibly pick up FX, or I should say Fox stuff, which includes X-Men stuff, which includes Deadpool stuff, and they have a major choice to make if that goes through, unless Comcast comes in and blows up the deal, which we can talk about it if we want to later. But if Disney does take on Fox's assets, they really have to look at themselves in the mirror and say, do we want to start doing things that are outside of kid-friendly, or borderline kid-friendly rating systems?
Well, Disney has made movies before that were, for adults, but they put them under different banners, different production banners over time.
But the new Disney has kind of just cut that off, though, haven't they? I mean, they haven't done anything like that for at least a decade or two, right?
Exactly. But, maybe they'll bring in, maybe they'll make a subdivision of Lucasfilm that deals with, Lucasfilm, mature banner.
That's a great point. Yeah, and that's how they usually do it. They're doing. Yeah, there's a lot of different companies that do that, where they're just. That's Jim Henson has just done that. Sorry, Jim Henson's company, I should say. Brian Henson has just done that with this new raunchy puppet movie. They have what is it called? Muppets Adult or something like that.
Henson Alternative.
Yeah, Henson Alternative. That's exactly right.
All right, if we started seeing some Star Wars alternative, I would be 100% into that.
Well, Boba Fett could be a great vehicle for that.
That could be the one that we get to see. Yeah. Well, either way,
I would love to see that Bounty Hunter ensemble movie with that sort of theme.
Right, and that's we had that written up. That was Brendan Hess's idea. Was not just Boba Fett. He's kind of the anchor, and then you have all these other bounty hunters coming in, and it gets really rough and gritty.
All of them. Yeah. There's let's see. Oh, Dune. Brendan said Dune. Is that what Mangold's working on, or you mean Dune as far as probably more of a more gritty movie? Actually, I'm not entirely sure what you mean. I tried to fill that in.
I think that was a sarcastic pick for the best Star Wars movie.
Okay. I'll leave it at that. That's what happens when I read the comments live on the air. All right. So let's go on from talking about Star Wars. We're going to bounce back and continue talking about this as well, but we do have some other things to get to for today. So keep dropping your comments in there. We'll talk about whatever your favorite Star Wars movie is, or maybe who you think should get the standalone movie, which is always something that we talk about on this show. Obviously, a C-3PO origin story is what we need, or no, maybe a side story. That's clearly what everybody's clamoring for. But let's go talk about some more superhero movies. We do have some casting news that I feel like we need to get to with Spider-Man 2, which is going to be immediately following the next Avengers movie, really, as far as in the timeline. So it's July 2019.
Yeah, do we know the timeline of Spider-Man? I don't want to give anything away.
I thought it was supposed to be right afterward.
Or maybe they said it will be in the aftermath of what happens in Infinity War, but
we don't know. Yeah, that's the most we can even say about that without giving something away. So.
Okay. Well, I mean, I don't think it's giving anything away because we don't know.
Right.
Yeah, so,
absolutely.
I wish I had the inside information. That would be awesome. But anyway, we do have some casting then, at least this. So we know that Michael Keaton's going to be returning as the Vulture. We also have now Jake Gyllenhaal, who is going to be Mysterio. So Mysterio is a character, obviously, from the comics. I mean, I certainly recognize the name Mysterio, but I'm not wholly familiar with him. He's
a special effects expert who has a thing against Spider-Man. His name was Quentin Beck. In the original incarnation, he has, wants to get Spider-Man for one reason or another. Uses his special effects abilities and his stuntman abilities to fight Spider-Man.
That is perfect description. And if you're just listening to the podcast, you can't see Rick right now, and maybe on the video you can't see, but behind him are what looks like hundreds of framed comic books, including Spider-Man comics. So we are going to the right expert here.
Yeah.
So how do you...
We've got our comic books guy now.
We do. And so how do you feel about this character, bringing in Mysterio into the MCU?
Oh, I think he's great, the way they've been handling these characters, the way they handled Vulture. I never thought that Vulture could be a credible, viable villain in the live-action Spider-Man superhero sort of universe. But Michael Keaton ended up being one of my favorite villains in any Spider-Man movie.
Not to mention he was likable, which I thought that was a really interesting take to go. He's a dad, and he's just kind of like got in over his head.
Right, you had some sympathy for him.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the way that Quentin Beck Mysterio has been handled in the past, he's as much of a psychological villain as he is sort of a physical brawler, a guy who fights with Spider-Man. He's psychological. He has actually used different chemicals to cause Spider-Man to have hallucinogenic trips and question his own sort of presence in reality. He confuses him. He makes him think he's fighting other people than he is, or no one at all. It's a lot going on with Mysterio that I think there's a really rich, very fertile ground for any filmmaker to sort of take on with that character. You can do a lot with Mysterio.
Interesting. It sounds a little Scarecrow-ish right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's a really great comparison for the character.
That sounds like something that would really push Spider-Man in from, out from being a kid into something more adult.
Mm-hmm.
If he's getting hallucinating and going along those lines.
Sounds like a tough road for him.
What do you think about Jake Gyllenhaal being cast?
I mean, that's brilliant.
Gyllenhaal's a really good actor. I'm surprised that he's finally getting into superhero movies after having so many close calls with different superhero projects over the past. He's finally in.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's a good one just because of your description. Because if he is psychological, I mean, anybody who's seen Gyllenhaal in some of his latest stuff, he is really good at making you a little bit afraid of him just by a look.
Yeah.
I can't, for some reason, it's
the one where he was chasing the accidents. I'm
blanking on the name too.
We'll get it.
Who's got it?
And he can be physical too, and that's
Nightcrawler.
The character can be, the character can be physical too. That's the thing. He's a stuntman, special effects guy. Hollywood is his sort of toolbox of weapons.
Yeah, it's kind of fun. I was also excited to know that Michael Keaton is coming back because I didn't really realize that either. So this movie's really shaping up to be interesting on the villain side, which, as we know, as long as the villains are good, you can kind of skimp on everything else, and it's still going to make a pretty fun movie. So.
Yeah, well, that is July 2019 is when we'll get to see that one. Bouncing on just a few other things here that we want to get to, and then we'll come back to some more Star Wars news, or just Star Wars talk. But one other casting thing, it looks like for the Men in Black reboot, in case you didn't know that was happening, it is finally happening. And it's going to star Chris Hemsworth and Tessa Thompson, so two MCU people from Thor Ragnarok. They're going to be starring, and now possibly Liam Neeson coming in the kind of Rip Torn role, I'm going to imagine, as the boss overseeing everything. And it takes place in London, this version of it. So, I don't know.
I think it's a good choice.
I'm not that excited about a Men in Black reboot, but I will watch it.
I am because of my newfound love for Chris Hemsworth ever since Thor Ragnarok.
Yeah, okay.
That's fair.
And second, I think it's fun to see Liam Neeson finally play his age because I just don't know how much more he can Bruce Willis.
I'm going to find you.
You can't Bruce Willis for you can't do that till you're 85 years old. I don't know how old Liam Neeson is, but
how many Taken movies are there now?
There's too many.
How many times can he lose his family?
4, I think, plus a TV series.
As Deadpool himself said, at some point you just got to figure this guy's a bad dad.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just a terrible father.
Men in Black sort of is one of those movie franchises that I don't get super excited about, kind of like Mission Impossible. I don't get super excited about them, but they're always entertaining and good, and I always like the movies. I don't get super excited about them coming out, but they're always enjoyable.
Yeah. I keep enjoying Mission Impossible even more, and I thought about this the other day. This is really Tom Cruise's way of saying, well, screw you. If you're not going to make me James Bond, I'll make me James Bond. It's his own way of being James Bond without having to be British or something.
Oh, wow. It's like a personal vendetta that he's got going on. It seems like
it, because we all thought maybe 2-3 movies, but now they're making, they're on their 6th now, and I'm sure they're not stopping.
No, probably not. As long as he can still do it, I'm sure they'll keep on making these things.
As long as he's willing to do his own stunts.
We were just talking about this. We also had a recent interview with Simon Pegg, which went live on the site today. Really interesting interview. He's a really interesting guy, but we did talk to him about how weird it is that Tom Cruise is still doing his own stunts. And he said, yeah, we all have to watch it. And you're just sitting there watching and thinking, maybe he's going to die, like every time.
Maybe this is it. Maybe that's the draw. Well,
it's pretty crazy.
Other than that, Liam Neeson now apparently, playing his age in the next Men in Black movie. That is what we're hearing for that. All right, a few other things to talk about. Just some Netflix news.
Yeah, Netflix had a big old week, didn't they?
Yeah, they briefly passed Disney as the top, as the most. Briefly topped Disney as the biggest pure media company in the world by market value.
Yeah, and I just told my parents to sell some of their stock, so I think I blew it.
Oh, God. What were you thinking?
It only went a little higher than what they sold at, but yeah.
Yeah, their current membership level was 125 million subscribers at the end of the first quarter. That is insane. And they've got tons of money to spend on things, which is what we've got a couple of their projects that are going to be coming out. So Ryan Reynolds and Michael Bay, along with the writers of Deadpool, Paul Wernick and Rhett Reese, have signed on for a deal with Netflix for an exclusive movie that's going to be coming out. The movie's going to be sometime in 2019. But, I mean, with that whole crew together, I imagine, and the budget that Netflix can probably give them, I imagine it's going to be a lot of explosions and a lot of Ryan Reynolds, quips. And it's called Six Underground is what it's going to be called. So,
oh, wow. I didn't even know they had a name. I just thought they were calling it Michael Bay, Ryan Reynolds Do Netflix or something.
Yeah, I know, right?
That's enough to get people to watch it.
Yeah, Six Underground.
The Deadpool writers. I love everything about this project.
It's absolutely true.
I am not as down on Michael Bay as a lot of people overall, but I love everything about this movie. This is a movie made for me.
Well, they're going to get clicks on that one for sure.
Well, 2019 is when we'll get to see that one. So that's coming out. Other news from Netflix this week: they have signed former President Barack Obama and Michelle Obama to become producers for a multi-year partnership. To produce a myriad of original content.
And we knew about this. We knew about this before, but this is really more cementing of how much is going to happen. I think that we knew they were signed, but we just didn't know, or maybe it was just rumored, but we just didn't know how much was actually happening. It sounds like they're doing a lot.
Yeah. So it's going to include scripted, unscripted, and documentary series, as well as standalone documentaries and feature films. So they are full on into it. They've got their own production company now called Higher Ground Productions. And so they're fully on the Netflix bandwagon.
Obama TV.
I love that Netflix is getting into these all of these sort of talk shows and things like these documentary-ish projects. The thing with David Letterman.
That's a great show. Yeah.
All of these projects are fantastic, and they're great for Netflix to be doing. I think it just adds this whole other corner to Netflix that wasn't there prior to all these.
Yeah.
Yeah, I read an interesting piece the other day that said Netflix is trying to be all things TV, and they're doing a pretty good job of it from what we've seen so far. One of the things that people think about Netflix, just going back to their net worth, is how many kids shows they have. If you don't have kids, I guess. That right there is enough.
I know how many kids shows they have.
Yeah, This guy just had a second.
Yeah.
But that's one of the things. It's like if you're ever worried that somebody's going to beat out Netflix and that people won't be subscribing to them anymore, like if you're an investor or just think about these things, the kids shows alone are going to keep a massive part of their audience.
Yeah. I mean, it is.
My daughter doesn't understand what TV is outside of Netflix.
It's crazy.
A lot of the time. She presses the button for Netflix on the remote, on the television remote, and that's how she knows to watch shows.
Yeah.
That's her TV.
That's just insane. That's why they have 125 million subscribers.
Yep, absolutely.
They've got more original content coming out, too. This is another one that we knew was in the works, but we do have a date now. And it's the next thing from Matt Groening. It's called Disenchantment. And it's obviously an animated series. It's targeted towards like kind of an Adult Swim audience. So it's going to be, it's a fantasy. It follows a hard-drinking princess and her personal demon as they engage in medieval-themed misadventures. I'm already sold.
Sounds very metaphoric there, her personal demon.
Yeah. So I am excited about that. That's coming out August 17th. And he's got a lot of the crew back, too, from The Simpsons that are working on it. Bill Oakley, who lives here in Portland, he's one of the executive producers. It's a good cast. It's a good group they have on there.
I'll check it out.
Yeah. So Disenchantment, August 17th, and another animated series, and I believe Rick's going to like this one, is studio has announced plans to produce a Fast and Furious animated series.
You promised me we weren't going to talk about Fast and Furious.
I had to bring it up. I had to bring it in. a Fast and Furious family-friendly show.
Rick, take it away.
That family-friendly show. I mean, here's the thing: Fast and Furious franchise.
I don't want
to
grind my
gear.
gear.
Family. It is all about family, and they hammer that point home.
That's a good point.
Every third line in the movies.
And by the way, we're family.
The movies.
Well,
You're right.
It's going to follow a character, Tony Toretto, who's the cousin of Dominic Toretto, Vin Diesel's character.
Of course.
Isn't that nice?
And he's recruited by the government to infiltrate an elite racing league.
So there's going to
that's
be
what
cars then? Is there going to be cars in
Fast
there?
and Furious, like, you have the continuity of the movies, and I don't think they're too worried about the continuity of the cartoon.
I don't think so.
Because one would think that Tony Toretto would have been having family dinner with his family when they were really concerned about family and talking about family all the time in the movies.
I think the funniest thing about these movies these days, just to interrupt you there, because that's what I do, is that there's a Kim Kardashian style feud between the two biggest stars. It's like, how
Fast and Furious,
for these movies, I just don't understand how that even gets made when Vin Diesel hates The Rock and The Rock hates Vin Diesel.
Money.
Yeah.
I think they're also just two very different personalities at play there, where, they're both two personalities that are fantastic by themselves. I've had conversations with Vin Diesel during interviews and things like that. I think the guy is fantastic and he's super sincere, and I love talking with him. And everything I know about Dwayne Johnson seems to be that he's a fantastic guy as well. I just think that they're just two very different personalities when it comes to making movies.
Yeah.
And
different philosophies.
Yeah.
Huh.
It's a weird deal.
Well, Tony Toretto, you can follow the adventures of his cousin. Coming soon.
Well, that's exciting.
Yeah. All right, just a couple more things here. I'm looking at the time, so we should probably get back to some Star Wars. Before we do that, looks like The Expanse. I'm a fan of The Expanse, so I just want to make sure this is out there.
As am I.
Yeah, looks like it might be getting that second chance at Amazon.
It's looking
Amazon
pretty good.
Studios, looking pretty good.
It's looking pretty good because Jeff Bezos likes it.
Yeah,
that's all that really matters at
That's
Amazon.
all that matters in the world anymore is if Jeff Bezos likes you.
He threw $70 gazillion at Lord of the Rings because he was really into Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they know it's going to be a profit getter for them, but he was all in on Lord of the Rings, and it is unbelievable how much they threw at that just for the licensing. I think it was over $250 million.
Do you imagine having that power just
for the licensing?
Wait a minute, I like that TV series. Bring it back.
Yeah, so I think if they can do that, they can bring back The Expanse.
Yeah. So hopefully,
absolutely, and it makes sense given that it's already got a home on Amazon in one way. So
yeah, that's actually where I watched it. Was on Amazon.
I don't see why they wouldn't.
Yeah,
but we still don't have confirmation.
Not confirmation yet, but that's looking pretty good. One other thing I wanted to get to just really quick because I wanted to make sure people are aware of this terrible idea, and then we'll go back to talking about Star Wars and kind of wrap up. Were you aware they're making another $6 million man?
But they upped it to $6 billion.
$6 billion man. Yes, I did no idea this was even in the works. Apparently, there's been a setback, so it's going to be pushed back, I believe, for another year or something like that. That part's less important to me, other than the fact that it's happening. So Mark Wahlberg is going to be playing the $6 billion man. If you're watching live, I pulled the clip of the $6 million man battling Bigfoot, which did happen in the TV series.
Okay.
I believe it's Andre the Giant was playing Bigfoot as well.
I like Bigfoot's hippie hair in this one. That's a strange choice.
Yeah.
But okay.
Yeah.
I had an old $6 million toy, $6 million man toy growing up. You could open the chest and it had little electronics and lights in it and things like that.
Whoa.
That's pretty cool.
I guess I'm all in. I don't know.
Yeah. See, the interesting thing about $6 Million Man to me is it was just before my time in that I only know about it through. This is terrible. This Bigfoot thing, by the way. For those who are watching on the video, but
just Google $6 Million Man Bigfoot.
I only know about $6 Million Man through just cultural references. I've never seen anything about it. I know the star, but that's all I got.
The sound when things go into slow motion.
I know the sound. Yeah, it's all from Wayne's World and stuff. So it's going to be interesting to see this come back.
Well, they had Bionic Woman too. That was a spinoff, right? From $6 Million Man. Okay. So maybe it's a whole $6 million, $6 billion franchise we could be seeing.
Oh well, they're hoping it's going to be a $6 billion franchise.
Right? Yeah.
So. I love that inflation has really affected.
This, well, it's like they took the
cost adjustment.
Yeah, they really took the Austin Powers approach.
Yeah.
$1 million. Actually, that's not that much money.
That's not going to work. So $6 million man. Someday you'll get to see that.
$6 million is just if you like have a hip replaced. I think these days,
pretty much.
Yeah, they need a lot more money for that.
This is going to be part of your stand-up routine.
Yeah,
when it
well,
comes
I'm just
out.
trying it out, trying out new material.
What's the deal with this?
You got to shop it first.
Sure. So let's get back to the top. Just kind of wrap up today, talking about Star Wars, and obviously we had the ranking. So this article's coming out.
Well, it's in the works right now.
Works.
It's all in Rick's head at the moment.
Okay.
But once it's in Rick's head, that's just a couple of hops, skips, and jumps before it's on the site. So.
All right.
Yep.
So we'll have the ranking of Star Wars movies. Solo.
Hops, skips and jumps and passionate arguments with Ryan.
Yeah, there's gonna be some blood on that one. I have a feeling. This will not stand.
I think it needs to happen live on the air. You guys need to have your meeting.
We should hash
right
it out
here.
on the air. I like that idea.
Yeah. So
next week.
So you can look forward to that and let us know, what your favorite Star Wars movie is. We want to know. Solo. Rick, we should go see it. Correct?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
It's a great movie. I really enjoyed it.
Awesome.
Anytime somebody says fun for a movie like this, that's what I want to hear.
I'm actually going tomorrow. I already got my ticket, so I'm finally going to get out there to go see it. So.
Well, I'm going to the Redwoods tomorrow, so I'm going to be trying to find a speeder, and I'll be doing my Star Wars thing in a different way.
So if you see the weird guy running around the woods pretending to be on a speeder,
I will be pretending to be on a speeder.
That will be Ryan. Right there in the Redwoods.
That's my Star Wars weekend.
All right. Well, Rick, thank you so much for joining us. This was awesome.
Yeah, super fun.
Thank you.
Yeah.
This is really one of those long-time watcher, first-time guest things. So
First-time robot.
Can't believe this hasn't happened. And first-time robot. A lot of firsts. A lot of firsts.
I'm a robot. Next time we'll get you the tinfoil arms for the
That's
robot,
a good
too.
idea.
We'll make sure that's
I
on
think
there.
that would be great.
That's a good idea.
Well, and thanks everybody for tuning in. Again, this is Between the Streams, live every Friday at noon Pacific time. But you can send us an email anytime, podcast@digitaltrends.com, and hit subscribe for the podcast. That way you make sure you get it. We moved the time back earlier to make sure that we got that to you, and you can find out about everything for the weekend or what's coming up and get that as soon as possible. So subscribe to the podcast, leave us a review. That would be awesome. And thanks for tuning in. We'll be back next week with another episode. Lord.